Good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are doing great. You have to excuse me. I've been all like stuffy and yucky for a few days now, and gonna need to get better. I leave Saturday morning for my cruise, and I am not willing to be sick on my cruise. Also, wanted to let you know next Monday I will not be doing a video. I'm gonna be in Jamaica. I will be thinking of you guys. But I will do another video the following week. So, and I may just have to brag a little bit about my trip, but really looking forward to just spending time with my family and just kind of detoxing from the world and from life. And that's always great and fun. So anyway, really excited about that. Keep us in your prayers. We'll be traveling and just hoping and praying that, it's just kind of that final breather before we get back and just start going full blown into what God's called us to do. I'm just really excited and had a lot of emotions this week. This week we've been in tent revival, which has been great. We Saturday finished our class, and that was a lot of emotions and anxiety and all this stuff just kind of resurfaced. And then Sunday we had a phenomenal church service, and so it's just been great. And but my emotions are definitely kind of all over the place for the good. But I want to share with you, I try not to take too much of your time this morning, but I want to share with you, there's a story in the Bible, and it's Abraham and Sarah. Many of you know this story. It's Old Testament. It's in Genesis. I'm going to be kind of talking more from Genesis chapter 16. I encourage you, if you don't know this story, or if you do know this story, go back and reread this story or read it for the first time. It's a really cool story. But anyway, in this particular part that I want to discuss with you today, God had told Abraham and Sarah that they were going to have a child. Well, Sarah was really old, and she said that, she didn't believe that she was going to have a child. So she told her husband to go and sleep with her maidservant, and she can have a family that way. And so he did. And whenever she had conceived and had a baby. And so then a little while later, Sarah ends up pregnant. And so she has a child. Well, then things wasn't working out with the maidservant and that child. So they left. They were told to leave. And so then it just became Sarah, with her child. So the point of this story that I just kind of feel pressed upon my heart to just share with you is, how often, do we know, like how many times do we know that God has given us a promise, or, we know that God has called us to do this, or that we know that God is going to do this or provide this. Maybe it's healing, or maybe it's a ministry, or maybe it's a husband or a wife or whatever. And we know that there's a promise in our life. We know that God has given us this, but we kind of lose our patience with God, and we decide, hey, we'll do this ourselves. We'll help God out. And so I am a total fixer. I, like to help God out, which has backfired in my face a lot. God don't need my help. He just needs my obedience. Patience is not my virtue. I don't do well in the patient department. I don't like to wait. So that's kind of been a very big struggle for me personally. And I think that it just really creates a lot of mess because Sarah got impatient with God, and, she's going to fix it herself, and, here's a solution. So instead of waiting on God, she created a solution for herself. And because of that, now she's in a mess, because now other people are involved, and now other people are going to be hurt, and things are going to not be that good. And it reminds me so many times, like in relationships, you see so many people, they're so desperate. Not desperate is kind of not a nice word, but they're they want to be married. They want a spouse. They want somebody to share that life with, and they know that God has somebody for them. However, it doesn't mean that the first person you meet is that person. and what ends up happening, people are so desperate for love, an acceptance that, somebody can come along and have the right words and, okay, well, that's the one I'm supposed to be with. And 6 months later, they realize they're in an awful situation and they jump too soon. And it's the same thing, we see it in ministry. People are so hungry to do work for God, and rightfully so. We should desire to do the work for God. But what ends up happening is we jump into ministry areas, or we jump into these commitments that we were never intended to be in. We were never intended to jump into those. And it's almost like, instead of waiting for, the first 5 steps, because God is trying to do a work, God was preparing Abraham and Sarah. He was preparing them for, to have a child, and at that particular time, it wasn't the right time, but they didn't wait and didn't trust in God fully because they didn't see a way. Sometimes that ends up happening too, is that, you're praying and you're seeking for a miracle, and it's going to have to be a miracle for this situation. And we get so ahead of God and try to work out our miracle for ourselves that we don't, we end up making a big old hot mess out of things because we didn't wait on God. And so I just want to encourage you that, if there is a promise, if there's something that that God has for you and God has for your family, just keep trusting in Him. Sometimes, and one of the things that I have really learned that has just been really amazing is that through this journey that I have been on, especially since October, and I cannot believe it has been almost a year, that literally I have heard the voice of God to just say, stand still. And and throughout, ministers speaking over me, and just different, voices, just different things that God has, brought into my ear and into my heart is, when you don't know what to do, just stand. Just stand still. There's nothing wrong with standing still and just waiting on God. And it's through that when you feel God say, okay, now is the time, you don't have to push doors open. You won't be exhausted when you start moving forward. You don't have to fight against a current, because it's like the river will flow the same way that you're going. It's like you just got into this canoe and you're just canoeing along, and you don't even have to paddle. It's just happening. And so God will begin to open those doors, and He will begin to make a way to where you just kind of go with it. And it feels so much better than when you're trying to open those doors for yourself. Because when you begin to try and do it for God, you're trying to do it for yourself ahead of God, you will find yourself exhausted, frustrated, and feel like you are doing nothing but walking in circles. If you've ever tried to go out into the ocean and the waves are breaking, it's so crazy how the waves are actually coming on shore, but yet when you're standing in the ocean, it pulls you offshore. It's really weird because it's like the opposite of what you're seeing. And so what we have to do is we have to realize, if we will just wait on God, that we can wait for that current to pull us the same way that the waves are going. And so we want God to just be able to push us and move us along, not with us fighting against the current. So I just want to encourage you today that whatever it is, because I feel like, because I had other things I wanted to say today, but I felt like this is for somebody. I feel like this is for a lot of somebody's. There's something that God has promised you, and there's something that you've been waiting on, and you've become kind of impatient. You've become, a little disgruntled. But I just want to encourage you that if you don't feel the ease of moving into that situation, stand still. Don't move. Just wait on God. Get in your prayer time. Get in your prayer closet and just say, God, I don't want to move until you move me. I don't want to move until you say that it's the right time. I'm still standing, but I can feel it. I can feel the current shifting. I can feel those waves shifting. I feel that things are fixing to change. You can always tell when things are fixing to change because the wind begins to change. The atmosphere begins to change. I feel it coming. I'm excited about it, but I don't want my excitement to step ahead of what God wants and God's timing. So for now, I'm just praying and I'm standing and I'm getting myself ready mentally and spiritually and physically for what God has called me to do. So I love you guys and I'm so thankful for each of you. I cannot even begin to tell you how your words of encouragement have just uplifted my spirit, has just made me feel like I do still have purpose, and I know I do, and you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, you know you got it, but sometimes you do need to hear it. It makes a difference. I am just thankful. I'm thankful for my friends, my family. I'm thankful for my brothers and my sisters in Christ, and I pray that these messages will help people, to encourage you, to uplift you, to let you know that just because you don't see where you're supposed to be, or you're not where you know God's called you, it is okay. It is okay to just stand still because maybe the time is not right yet. So just stand, trust, and believe in God. You have purpose. There is a calling on your life. He chose you from the womb. He already knew you. He already designed you with a purpose. But sometimes He's preparing us for that. So just pray, seek Him like never before. Guys, have a blessed 2 weeks. I will be back on when I get back from my cruise. So love you guys. Thank you and have a blessed day.